Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Dona Apriyani. I'm from PBI 3. Today I will give the answer about the question of midterm test semester. And let's see the first question. The first question is, answer briefly the definition of language. In Carroll's opinion, language is a structured system of sounds and language sound sequence that have Manasuka characteristics, which are used or can be used to communicate between a group of people and somewhat strongly to name the various types of objects, events, and processes in the environment human life. The question of number 2. Please distinguish the terms and give example. A. Second language versus foreign language. B. Language learning versus language acquisition. The answer is for B. For A, according to the Big Indonesian Dictionary, which will be abbreviated as KBBI, foreign language are language beginning to other nations that are controlled, usually through formal education, and which are not considered social culture as their own language. For example, English, Mandarin, Japanese, Korean, and etc. And then, according to Savile Troy, second language is a typical of official or social dominant language needed for education, employment, and other basic purposes. It is often acquired by minority group members or immigrants who speak another language natively. And for example, our second language is Indonesia. Let's just say that we are Japanese. The language that we have started to know since childhood is Japanese. Then, when stopping on a school at the PAUD level, Indonesian began to be introduced to us. Often, Japanese people will communicate in Japanese in everyday life, while they will use a second language in certain circumstances, such as when in formal education, meeting other students from other areas, or not Japanese, and etc. And then for B. Language learning is the teaching about a language or its use, its speaker, and its structure, with the hope that the student will learn enough to actually be able to speak the target language. For example, a group of students sit in a circle with the teacher standing outside the circle. The student whispers in the native language while the other students must guess it uses the target language. It focuses on fluency, not on accuracy, which causes inadequate control of the target language. It is also aims to develop language learning in each student. Meanwhile, the language acquisition, according to Jarjo Wijojo, is the process of children getting to know verbal communication with their environment, or the process of acquiring language by children naturally when they learn their mother tongue. For example, when a child who is first or second years old, if they want calls a cat, they will call it meong. And the word of mimi, it means to drink. And then question of number 3. Please explain the statement. Integrated skills focuses on the four main English skills: reading, writing, speaking, and listening through a communicative language teaching methodology. The answer is, based on several articles that I have read, this statement means that in learning a language, for skills such as reading, writing, speaking, and listening are basic skills that must be mastered by everyone. These four elements are certainly related to each other, but they have significant difference in the process. In our effort to master English, we also have to carry out these four basic principles. Those who want to be proficient in English must adopt the four basic principles as a complete learning process, but keep in mind that these four basic have different characteristics. And of course with a different method. After these four skills have been mastered properly, it will automatically make it easier for someone to communicate. The question of number 4. Explain three hierarchical levels of conceptualization and organization of language teaching from Richards and Rogers. The answer is the first level is approach. Defines those assumptions, beliefs, and theories about the nature of language and the nature of language learning. Which operate as axiomatic constructs or reference points and provide a theoretical foundation for what language teachers ultimately do with learns in classrooms. The second level in the system is design, specifies the relationship of theories of language and learning to both the form and function of instructional materials and activities in instructional settings. And the third level is procedure. Comprise the classroom techniques and practice which are consequence of particular approaches and designs. And the question of number 5. Please write the strengths and weakness of these methods. A. Grammar translation method. B. Direct method. And C. Audiolingual method. And for A, grammar translation method have strengths. For the first is easier for teachers to use, does not require teachers to speak good English or make a good lesson preparation, only use the textbook, less stressful for students teaching a course in the first language. Students learn the new language without contact with native speakers. And for weakness, such as this method cannot realize its purpose in getting students to write correctly. This method is suitable only for smart students. This method requires students to think in their mother tongue, then that thought is translated into their brain, namely the target language. This method occurs unconsciously. It hinders the speed of language teaching. This method makes the teacher lazy, and then the teacher's role in this method is easy if her or she is fluent a foreign language. For B, direct method. The strength is the students are motivated to understand and pronounce words or sentences in foreign language that taught by the teacher, especially when the teacher uses media or realia. The students get more experience in speaking foreign language, even only simple sentences at first. The students are trying to speak in foreign language well. And then for weakness, the weakness in the direct methods is its assumption that a second language can be learned in exactly the same way as a first, when in fact the conditions under which a second language is learned are very different. And then teaching and learning process will be passive if the teacher cannot motivate the students to participate in the classroom. It is hard to apply it in Indonesia since several teachers in Indonesia are not expert in speaking English. And for C, audiolingual method. The strength is lesson in the classroom focus on the correct imitation of the teacher by the students. All the students are active in the class. The circumstance classes are more interesting and live. The speaking and listening skill are more drilled. so the pronunciation skill and listening skill are more controlled. Language skills are learned more effectively if they are present orally. Audiolingual method offers many times with native speakers deep achieving master to skill. And for weakness, this method plays in the background writing because it was much more important speech. Uh, for the smart students, this method is bored because the procedure of the audiolingual method is majority repeat the sentence. Sometimes the students are confused because the teacher explained the material in simple way, not in detailed way. The grammar skills is not more drill. The meaning of words can be learned only in a linguistic and cultural context. And the last of weakness is it was a behaviorist method where it is practiced through imitation instructor until the mechanical response was achieved the dialogues. Okay, I think enough for my answer. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.